this morning. There is growing outrage against the city's decision to shelter migrant families at a Brooklyn high school during Tuesday's storm. Nearly 2,000 migrants were moved from Floyd Bennett Field to James Madison High School, forcing those students there to learn remotely yesterday.
Elon Musk said that migrants will, quote, come for your home after a video was shared to X of migrants being dropped off at a school in New York City.
This morning, students and teachers in the country's largest school system are starting the school year with a new challenge.
It started like any ordinary morning until the fire alarm blared and the gym doors swung open. Nearly 2,000 migrants, many fleeing chaos, were ushered in to ride out a storm, and your kid's school shut down. Classrooms went dark, assignments went online, and parents went ballistic. This isn't fiction. It happened at a Brooklyn high school last year, where classes were canceled, remote learning was imposed overnight, and parents screamed, "This is inexcusable."
So, what was the mood with the parents yesterday? How did they feel about what was going on at their school?
Well, good morning. They were outraged. They were not happy. They were afraid what's going to happen next. Will school be properly sanitized after, migrants were there?
Welcome to the tipping point of America's immigration crisis, a crisis playing out in real time in our schools, our budgets, and our kids' futures. Over 500,000 migrant children have arrived in recent years, stretching classrooms from coast to coast. In the next few minutes, we're diving deep, fact by fact, feeling by feeling, into how American families are being squeezed, schools are buckling, and what all of us need to demand now. Imagine this. It's a normal school night in Brooklyn. Then disaster strikes. Last year, in January 2024, nearly 2,000 migrants seeking shelter from a storm were relocated into the gym of James Madison High School in Midwood, Brooklyn. Students were sent home and forced into remote learning overnight, with no warning, just pandemonium that included bomb threats, anxious parents, and a sudden political firestorm. The storm cleared, the migrants left, and classes resumed, but the shockwaves, those lingered. What just happened? Who decides when a school becomes a shelter, and at what cost? This wasn't fiction. It happened in real time. Social media caught fire with viral footage of the packed gym, and the uproar wasn't just online. It spilled into protest signs, news headlines, and heated city debates. But it didn't stop in New York. Across the country, schools are crumbling under an immigration crisis. In California's Central Valley, immigration raids triggered a staggering 22% spike in student absences. Educators now compare raids to natural disasters, leaving children stranded, emotionally shaken, and missing class after class. And it's not just rural schools. Urban classrooms are feeling the heat too. In Chicago, fears around deportations have led families to keep kids home or pull them out early. Teachers are distributing Know Your Rights cards, making house calls, desperately trying to preserve any sense of safety. Even districts like Los Angeles are pushing back. School leaders are barring immigration agents from classrooms, urging them to stay at least 2 blocks away, saying bluntly, schools are not places of fear. Stay tuned, because next, we dive into how American kids are paying the price and what happens when politics barges into the halls of learning. Since spring 2022, New York City has taken in over 210,000 migrants, with many fleeing crises in Venezuela, Haiti, and beyond, transforming halls, shelters, and classrooms alike. Across that same period, the city registered upwards of 237,000 asylum seekers, launching a massive humanitarian effort, tripling shelter capacity, offering vaccines, enrolling thousands into schools, and helping families file work authorization and asylum cases. But here's where it gets gripping. During the 2024-25 school year alone, NYC schools welcomed around 50,000 newly enrolled migrant children. That followed a broader wave. Nearly 20,000 migrant students started school in a single fall season, testing the system like never before.
So we didn't budget for an influx of students, and it's not just the cost of staffing, it's transportation, it's ancillary costs that we might not even be aware of at this time.
Think about it. Packed classrooms, ESL demand soaring, not enough bilingual or ESL teachers to go around. In fact, as of last year, fewer than half of schools receiving migrant students had a bilingual teacher on staff, and a whopping 4% had no bilingual or ESL teacher at all. Here's the punch. Families, educators, and students are caught in the squeeze. Overcrowded schools struggle with limited space, paperwork backlogs, and a scramble for resources. And American kids? They're pushed into remote learning, shifted classrooms, or left waiting for a seat, a teacher, a moment of normalcy. So what happens next when classrooms can't keep up? The mood in Brooklyn turned icy, not from the winter chill, but from parental fury. Imagine, one evening, migrants are ushered into James Madison High School gym. By morning, students are abruptly pushed into remote learning, canceled gym classes, scrambled schedules, and a sudden overnight shift to online learning sparked outrage. Crowds gathered outside the school, signs raised, voices raised. But the pressure isn't limited to one school. Across NYC, the migrant influx has overflowed into billions of dollars in emergency funding, stretching school budgets to the brink. At PS 145 in Manhattan, a flood of newcomer students is threatening West Prep Academy, a special needs school sharing the same building. Parents warn that the relocation site lacks outdoor space and proper accommodations. They're pushing back with petitions and protests, fearing their children are being left behind. Teachers and students feel it. Parents demand it. And while schools scramble to adapt, American kids are caught in the crossfire. The question hanging in the air is, how long before this tipping point becomes a crisis?
Migrant families arrive here in the city. New York City officials are unveiling a plan to help children enroll in school come fall.
Across the nation, the classroom crisis is real and escalating. Since 2022, more than 500,000 school-age migrant children have arrived in the U.S., a tidal wave straining districts from Texas to Pennsylvania to New York City. How are teachers coping? Some use translation apps, pairing more advanced English-speaking newcomers with beginners, relying heavily on physical cues and repetition, all while wondering, is this slowing down American students? Districts have hired ESL specialists, interpreters, and absorbed tens of thousands in extra costs, sometimes awaiting reimbursements from the state.
It really is a challenge to find bilingual educators for the students that we're going to be serving in general, and then with a potential influx of students having those needs.
In NYC, 36,000 migrant students enrolled over the past 2 school years. Denver added another 4,700 just this year, and Chicago's numbers range between 8,900 and 17,000 new arrivals. Imagine classrooms bursting at the seams, teachers juggling translation, budgets splintering, and local communities grappling with what comes next. What unfolds when American students get pushed aside, not by their own failings, but by a system buckling under sheer weight? Stay tuned.
America's failing public education system has also taken a huge financial hit, with billions of dollars to educate the illegal migrant children who have crossed into our country over the past 4 years.
A crisis isn't just flashing red, it's draining wallets. The Heritage Foundation found that New York State taxpayers shelled out nearly $240 million in 2022 alone due to the migrant influx, while the national tab for education cost ballooned by $2 billion. Zoom into NYC, where an emergency funding scramble is underway. The Department of Education funneled $110 million toward hiring ESL and bilingual teachers, but advocates warn it isn't nearly enough. Let's break that down. $110 million sounds huge until you watch it vanish across hundreds of overcrowded schools. In many buildings, freshly arrived students outnumber staff equipped to teach them. Basic support gets squeezed. Across the U.S., the FAIR analysis shows taxpayers paid an eye-watering $150 billion in 2023 to support migrant-related services, from education to shelters. That same pressure is popping budget caps in cities like Denver, Chicago, and New York itself.
Because the influx of migrants has put an unmanageable strain on our education system. As a former school board member, I can tell you our system is already strained of funds.
Translation: American students are paying the price. Not a test score, but access. Not F grades, but fairness. Walls are closing in, budgets are shrinking, and classrooms risk becoming lines on a spreadsheet. When schools bend under financial strain, whose learning slips through the cracks? This isn't about blame, it's about heartache. Picture American parents watching their school routines unravel overnight. While migrants seek shelter from storms, families feel their own children are losing stability, predictability, and even classrooms. Take that freezing night at Floyd Bennett Field, where winds topped 60 miles per hour. Nearly 2,000 asylum-seeking families were bussed into James Madison High School's gym, auditorium, and cafeteria as an emergency shelter. Many camped on floors or folding chairs. Meanwhile, students were told to pivot to remote learning. Without warning, schools, once safe anchors, became triage zones. But there's more beneath the headlines. In the weeks after, 5 middle school-aged children from that shelter vanished from school rolls, lost in the shuffle as the tent encampment closed and families relocated. Teachers were left wondering, where did they go? No one was tracking them. So here's the fragile truth. Both migrant and American children are caught in chaos. One group flees storms, the other loses school time. Parents are watching helplessly, feeling robbed of routine and learning, while educators struggle to keep up, trying to hold classrooms together. When shelter becomes displacement, who ends up sacrificed? Let's pause and ask the big question: should schools double as shelters? Can we rethink where emergency housing happens? Maybe sports arenas, or even military bases? Congress is already debating it. The Schools Not Shelters Act, passed by the House in 2023, aims to reinforce that schools should focus on education, not serve as migrant housing. Similarly, a House resolution condemned using gyms and classrooms for sheltering, especially after NYC offered school gyms for asylum seekers in May 2023. What about other spaces? Sports stadiums already play a role during disasters. They open their doors, spare rooms, or parking lots to displaced families. While not directly a U.S. policy, globally, sports infrastructure is frequently leveraged for social resilience and emergency response. So here's the dilemma: should enrollment fees or federal relief funds cushion schools from this pressure? Can smarter classroom planning, like modular spaces or emergency-only zones, help? And most urgently, can we shield American kids from futures where every school becomes a makeshift shelter?
Migrant families say they're keeping their kids home from school out of fear that federal immigration agents could show up.
So here we are at a crossroads. We can agree migrants deserve compassion, safety, and dignity, but we also can't ignore what American families are feeling: blindsided, pushed out, and watching their kids' education bend under a strain they didn't create. Last year's James Madison High School incident was more than a one-day disruption. It became a symbol of the bigger national question: can we protect opportunity for everyone without making school children pay the price? Across the country, the story is repeating, and the tension keeps rising. Here's where you come in. This can't just be another viral headline that fades away. If you believe in solutions that balance compassion with stability, make your voice heard. Comment below. Should schools ever be used as shelters? Should stadiums or military bases take that role instead? Share your thoughts, your local stories, and yes, share this video. The louder the conversation, the harder it is for leaders to ignore. And if you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button, because we're following this story wherever it goes, from City Hall to Congress. This isn't the end. It's just the start of the fight for classrooms where every kid belongs.